Welcome to the Lynn Lineup, a program which focuses on events happening right here in the city of Lynn. Here with me today we have David Gass, the director of the Highlands Coalition, and Natasha Meji-Madri, project coordinator and a voter in the Highlands. Guys, thanks for being here today. I want to talk about your event. We're here today to talk about the neighborhood meeting happening April 11th, 7 p.m. at KIPP Academy. This is being thrown by the Highlands Coalition. There'll be access to childcare and some refreshments and small snacks there as well. And it's overall, we're hoping to gain access to voting in the Highlands. The overall goal really is to bring it back at the KIPP Academy. Right now, we talked a little bit before the program, the Highlands is split into two wards, and these two wards vote separately at different locations. They're on the opposite sides of the neighborhood. We're trying to bring it to a centralized location, and that's why this meeting is going to be held again. That's April 11th, 7 p.m. at KIPP Academy. Guys, we're going to talk about this event more in detail, but first and foremost, let's learn a little bit about who you are and how you're involved with the organization. David?
Yes, the Highlands Coalition has been talking for 9 years about restoring voting to the Highlands, which was stopped in 2004. While the voting was at the Ford School, voting was steadily up because it was easy. You drop off your children, you could vote. When that ended in 2004, the voting numbers went down, so it's probably 30% less. We know that voting is power, and voting is also resources, and we're trying to bring that back. In 2014, we met with the Human Rights Commission. We were the first plaintiff, and we got a unanimous vote that our human rights were violated by not having, when voting was removed from the Ford School. And
this was in 2002?
2014.
2014?
Yes.
So this is the Human Rights Commission meeting that you had. In
Yes.
2002, that's when the Ford School voting stopped, though.
Yes.
So for up to about 10 years,
Right.
for 10 years, human rights were being invaded on.
Exactly, exactly. And my feeling is because it's a low-income minority neighborhood, a lot of immigrants, they don't vote, and so you don't get the response you need from the city. Now the city councils are considering that, because voting in Ward 4 takes place at the college this year at the museum, which Natasha can explain what that means.
Sure. Natasha?
Yes, so voting has dropped dramatically in Ward 4 particularly. And so for us, like as a voter, it's really hard to park. Like parking at the Lynn Museum was really terrible. There was nowhere to park, and it was really hard for voters to go there. So I think do believe that was part of the reason that the voting was so low. So that's why we want to change that and have voting back at the Highlands.
So now you're a neighbor over at the Highlands. What are some of the things that your neighbors are saying about this?
Well, a lot of elderly voters really find it very hard to get to anywhere that's not close to them. So it's very hard for them. It's very hard for them just to go out and vote.
Okay, so we were talking a little bit before the program, just to catch our viewership up. Up to 2002, if you lived in the Highlands, you were able to go to the Ford School, and then that was stopped. In 2010, a census was conducted, and it was shown and used against the fact to have voting over at the Ford School. That one, votership wasn't high enough. I mean, what were they saying in 2010 because of the census?
It was the 2000 census. Sorry, it was the 2000 census that where the city split after that census, 2010. That city divided the Highlands into two wards and stopped voting.
Okay.
So that's what you need, the census to show the figures of voting, etc. But in the primary this year, or last year, when the city council election took place and the school committee, two extremely important bodies in Lynn,
right,
11% of the registered voters voted in the Highlands, 17% in the city, and during the primary this year, 9% of people that voted 4-1 and 2-4, which is probably the lowest on record, and people were just discouraged from going. Like Natasha said, sometimes you got a parking ticket if you go to vote.
Right.
Is that good? So that's what our struggle is now, and the councilors are saying a meeting and going to come to our meeting, and they're considering new voting places because that's very important.
So the end goal is to gain voting over at KIPP Academy. We're saying that the the way that it's set up right now, it's more of a chore for the neighborhood over in the Highlands to go out and get to vote at the designated places. Ideally, we want to generate an interest. Now, is the city council planning on being there at your meeting?
Hong Net said he'd be there. Brian couldn't make it, and I assume Richard Colucci could make it. But the thing is, the ideal place is the Ford School. It's the center of the Highlands. That's the ideal thing, and there's no issue around the handicap ramp because it was never an issue. It's always been accessible to 600 children. It's not a violation of anything. And said the ideal thing is to have everybody vote there. Right now, KIPP said, yes, we can do it. They have parking and they have a community attitude toward this. They will support it.
Okay.
So that we could accept that.
So, Natasha, you've been living in the Highlands how long?
I've been 17 years.
So 17 years, you've been there, you've been voting for a while now, so you know the ins and the outs. I want to talk a little bit about the importance of this. So you as a neighbor, okay?
Yes.
The importance of this meeting. The meeting is set to happen April 11th, 7 p.m. at KIPP Academy. There'll be childcare available, and there'll also be refreshments. So tell your neighbors, why is it important that they get out to this meeting?
So it's very important that they go out and vote. And also, if they're not registered to vote, we're going to have the registration forms there available, and especially the younger students. So now they can do early voting and early register, so they can register early, 16, 17, and then so when it's time for them to vote, they'll be already registered. So that's really,
So this is kind of like an access hub for voters to be, even younger voters too.
Exactly.
So that event, it's April 11th. What day does that fall on?
It's a Monday.
It's a Monday. Monday, April 11th, 7 p.m. at KIPP Academy. David Gass, director, and Natasha Meji-Madri, neighbor over at the Highlands Coalition. These guys are here talking about bringing votership back to the Highlands in a centralized area, so they're not just broken up into two wards. We've got some detail from the Human Rights Commission. There are a lot of active parties working to get this done. Should be an interesting meeting and very insightful. That is Monday, April 11th at KIPP Academy, 7 p.m. The neighborhood meeting being thrown on by the Highlands Coalition. I'd like to thank my guests, David and Natasha, for coming onto the program. That's it for the Lynn Lineup from the studio here at Lynn Community Television. I'm Sean Donahue, wishing you all the best.